How did Chrollo make so many puppets? Did Chrollo cheat against Hisoka? Was Hisoka suppressed against an adult? These are the questions that have been on the mind of readers aplenty throughout the universe since 50 or so chapters ago in Hunter x Hunter, when this showdown finally happened. 10 whole years ago. Yeah. It's kinda crazy there's still so much discourse around this fight, theories, different analysis on it, which for a fight this monumental is kinda unique, but also is a bit frustrating. Just like you, I want answers. Some sort of explanation on how some of the things happened the way it did in this fight. So today, I'm going to be providing answers with a general explanation or overview of the fight baked in, free of charge. Major disclaimer right away, none of this analysis is confirmed and is simply my interpretation of the fight that makes sense to me. If you don't like it or don't agree, that's fine. It's an extremely complicated fight that has plenty of weird things happening in it that could be explained by different possibilities or different theories altogether. That being said, everything I say in this video regarding this fight has realistic possibilities, so I just say keep your mind open if you are someone that is looking for answers. The first thing I want to say is I don't think Chrollo cheated. The main reason I think this is because of what Togashi said in a volume bonus page at the end of volume 34. He talks about some of the inspiration for the fight and says, "I tried to do justice to both sides, making each of them look good, while still clearly and decisively determining a winner, but striking that balance is both challenging and enjoyable." Now, these words from Togashi don't definitively say Chrollo did not cheat, but it seems to me that his intent was to represent each character's abilities and IQ and strengths, and having the Phantom Troupe cheat for Chrollo or prep stuff in the crowd beforehand just doesn't really seem like something he was aiming for. Additionally, there's a lot of things that kinda don't line up with this theory. We don't see any prepped clones in the crowd at any point in the background before the fight. We don't see anyone in the crowd acting weird or being like, why is there a clone hiding behind me? But if this isn't enough to convince you it's likely, I don't blame you. It's very complicated, but there is answers for everything that happens, and I'll get to everything that's possibly inconsistent when it's relevant, especially the whole puppets and numbers and Hisoka's guesses. But lastly, I want to say I won't cover all the abilities of each character in depth as we go through the chapters, as it would slow down the pacing of me covering the action. So I'm going to go over the abilities at the beginning here as a primary refresher, and I will timestamp this and list all his abilities and also describe them a bit in more detail here. Chrollo's general ability is Skill Hunter Bandit Secret, which manifests in his right hand and allows him to use copied abilities that he's stolen from other people, and each page has a different ability. This is limited because Chrollo only has access to his left hand when using this Hatsu, so if he closes the book, the ability is gone. However, we find out that Chrollo developed a bookmark that allows him to use both his hands and put away the book. This also lets him use two-handed abilities that would have been just straight up impossible before. And finally, it allows Chrollo to stack two abilities at once, an ability that is bookmarked and an ability that his book is open on. As for some of the Hatsu or abilities Chrollo has, he has Gallery Fake, an ability to copy people living or dead by using his left hand on the target, producing a copy with his right. The copy will not move or do anything until other abilities interact with it. It's essentially a lifeless puppet. Chrollo also has Order Stamp Proof of Humanity, which lets him stamp a puppet and give it a verbal command for it to follow. For the purposes of this video, the command break basically means go attack and try to kill your target. To put a stop to these puppets, you need to behead them. Next is Black Voice Mobile Fate Director, an ability that has two physical needles and a physical phone. These objects are real, so Chrollo needs to carry them with him, but they won't actually do anything unless Chrollo opens his book onto Black Voice or bookmarks Black Voice. By piercing someone with this needle, it instantly kills them and gives Chrollo complete control over their body with the phone that he has in his hand. Next is Sun and Moon Pair Destruction. This is an ability that manifests a sun seal on his left hand and a moon seal on his right hand. He can place these seals by making contact with anything he touches, and the seals place instantaneously. When these seals make contact with one another, the sun seal and moon seal, they cause a minor explosion. However, the explosion can be supercharged by having one of the seals held for 3 seconds or longer. It's also extremely important to know that Chrollo, if he places these seals on puppets, will make the puppets remain forever. This is something Hisoka doesn't figure out until late in the fight, and is an integral part of Chrollo's strategy. So, in practice, this essentially means Chrollo can gallery fake someone, place a sun and moon seal on them, then deactivate both abilities, and the puppet will just sort of remain there with him having no abilities active. Chrollo's final ability is Transfer Student. His right hand changes the appearance of the person he touches to look like him. His left hand changes the appearance of himself to look like the target. If he touches you with both hands at the same time, you swap appearances. The person that takes Chrollo's appearance or is interacted with is not killed by this, and it does not change literally anything about them except their appearance. They just look like Chrollo or vice versa. Something very important to note about this ability and the Sun and Moon ability is if these are used while Chrollo has his book open, his left hand will still be usable. This means if the book is open and the Sun and Moon is used, he won't have access to the Moon seal on his right hand because his book is open obviously, but his left hand will still have the Sun seal. The same goes for convert hands. His right hand isn't usable because of the book, but his left hand can just make full use of the left-handed convert hands. With all that being said, let's get started at looking at this fight. We're told at the start of chapter 251 that this is a battle between two floor masters of Heaven's Arena, and Chrollo declares it will be a battle to the death. Once the battle commences, Chrollo pulls out a black voice needle from his left pocket and sticks it in the referee, immediately unaliving him and having his body mind controlled by Chrollo's black phone. This phone was also in his left pocket, and both of these objects are physical objects like I mentioned earlier, so Chrollo needs to maintain and keep up with these objects to use them in this fight, as well as open his book to the Black Voice Hatsu for the ability to actually work. Hisoka deduces that the judge is a distraction, and Chrollo is coming to use Black Voice's second needle on him to instantly kill him. Chrollo sends the judge in while he comes to attack Hisoka himself with the other Black Voice needle, but he does a feint instead and kicks him away. Hisoka is then visibly shocked by Chrollo's speed as Chrollo unleashes a barrage of kicks on Hisoka. While guarding against this barrage of kicks, Hisoka theorizes that Chrollo may not be able to manipulate him right now with Black Voice because he can't manipulate two people at once. We learn later that Chrollo can control two separate people with Black Voice, one needle in each person respectively, and the reason Chrollo didn't stab Hisoka or try to stab Hisoka with Black Voice and isn't actively trying to do it right now is explained shortly after this. Hisoka then activates his bungee gum to counterattack Chrollo while he's stomping on him. However, Chrollo notices this and avoids Hisoka's bungee gum counterstrike. He then seemingly touches the judge as he flies past him, marking him with a quick sun seal, and then running behind him, putting the bookmark on Sun and Moon, touching his back with the moon sign, and then extremely quickly reactivating Black Voice. The judge then runs after Hisoka, but starts to explode when the judge touches his own back, making Hisoka concerned and dip out for safety. Keep in mind the size of this explosion. This is what a regular Sun and Moon explosion looks like according to Chrollo, but if he touches a target with one of the seals for 3 to 5 seconds, it will cause a much larger explosion. It doesn't have to be both seals held for the entire time frame, only one seal needs to be held, and then the other can just be an instant seal. Chrollo reveals why he didn't actually try to use Black Voice on Hisoka earlier, saying that he will play with his hand face up, and that style is important in a game more than outcome, which just essentially means he doesn't care if he wins without making it stylish or enjoyable. And for why Chrollo's doing this, I don't really know. It might be to mock Hisoka, as this is an approach Hisoka is sort of famous for. The next few pages are simply Chrollo explaining some of his nin abilities that he acquired and how his bookmark functions, and we already went over this, so this pretty much marks the end of chapter 351. Chapter 352 has a lot of explanations as well, so this is going to be pretty short, and it starts with exposition from Chrollo, explaining how his abilities function again, going over his puppet controlling ability Order Stamp, Gallery Fake, and while explaining these abilities, he uses them to create a Gallery Fake clone that attacks Hisoka with the command Break Hisoka. The clown easily disposes of this puppet after Chrollo informs him that decapitating the puppet will pretty much kill it. Chrollo then reveals his final ability, Convert Hands Transfer Student. Finally, and the most important thing to mention in this fight, one of the abilities Chrollo has remains in the book even after death, meaning this ability was stolen and the original owner died, but Chrollo retained the ability with Postmortem Nin. Chrollo and Hisoka have a mutual understanding on what this means for the battle. Once these Sun and Moon seals are placed, they cannot be removed. Even if Chrollo were to place a Sun or Moon seal and close his book with no bookmark, the seal would remain forever. This is true, however Hisoka does not know at this point how it affects Chrollo's gallery fake puppets. If a gallery faked puppet is touched with a Sun or Moon seal, one of the puppets will just remain forever. After this, the two re-engage in combat with Chrollo backing up into the crowd. Hisoka is hesitant to use his bungee gum because Chrollo has out Black Voice, which Hisoka says can one-shot him, so he needs to keep his distance initially, but then Chrollo uses Black Voice to manipulate two individuals to block Hisoka's point of view, as Chrollo dips out and uses left-handed Convert Hands to change his appearance. Hisoka notices him dip out to the left, but he had a very big fella in front of him blocking his view, so he pretty much loses Chrollo completely in the crowd. At the start of chapter 353, we probably have one of the strangest things that happens in this entire fight. The two Black Voice antennas Chrollo used are gone when they should be in the back of the two manipulated corpses. If you remember what I said earlier, these are physical objects, so Chrollo deactivating the Hatsu won't make them disappear. It would just stop the Hatsu from working. Hisoka is initially confused on how Chrollo did this and deduces that Chrollo maybe reeled them in with a fishing line or something. Now, I know this looks insane, like how does Chrollo do this, but we have to understand something about Hisoka. He's a battle genius and he thinks this is a possibility. In fact, this is the first possibility that he comes to. Despite what you or me think the plausibility of it is, Hisoka thinks that Chrollo could have pulled this off. And I have no reason not to believe him, so I think this is just what happened. Chrollo used a fishing line to get these Black Voice needles. Moving on, Hisoka starts walking alongside the stands, looking around the crowd, and starts seeing a bunch of duplicates of people. He thinks that since Gallery Fake was activated, Convert Hands must be deactivated, which is true. A short time later, after this Hisoka thinking, we see a bunch of puppets start to rush Hisoka, which he estimates is about 30, but according to Hisoka, with Chrollo's speed he maybe made more. His exact estimate of how many puppets Chrollo could make is revealed a bit later when he says there could be up to 50 more puppets that Chrollo made here. However, later on, he finds out that Chrollo made these puppets permanent with sun seals and estimates that extra time maybe affected how many puppets Chrollo could make and drops it to 20 to 30 extra puppets. Strictly from Hisoka's perspective, he thinks based on Chrollo's speed that he could change his shirt and beanie, put the bookmark on Gallery Fake, copied between 50 and 80 people, and then opened his book to order stamp, then put a stamp on 30 of the copies. But like I said earlier, Hisoka finds out that the sun seal was also placed on these puppets, meaning after Gallery Fake, every puppet got a sun seal, and there's likely other things Chrollo did as well, but I'm not going to get to that until I get to the entire puppets and number explanation. The 30 puppets start to attack Hisoka, so he retreats to the ceiling, but Chrollo in his disguise starts attacking Hisoka when he's fending off this horde, going for guaranteed hits when Hisoka is vulnerable. Hisoka starts taking out some of the puppets methodically, bit by bit, when Chrollo comes from above him, causing Hisoka to activate bungee gum on one of the heads, but Chrollo says he's been watching and avoids this attack while in midair. Hisoka, however, was prepared for Chrollo to see through this plan and prepared a backup plan to send a second assault at Chrollo, but not before Chrollo could actually reach Hisoka. After he avoids the first head, he stomps on Hisoka's face, and his backup plan goes into effect, where he uses his foot bungee gum to engage in a mutual strike with Chrollo, thus marking the end of chapter 353. Starting chapter 354, we're told these objects Hisoka is throwing at Chrollo are comparable to bowling balls for whatever reason. We then see Chrollo recoiling in midair from Hisoka's assault on his right flank, and while still in midair, Hisoka sends the other bowling ball that he initially missed on Chrollo to hit him from his left side now. This was even more effective than the first attack would have been because all of Chrollo's momentum was going towards the direction of the second bowling ball from the first attack's momentum. Chrollo seems to be reeling from injury, and the announcers declare that Hisoka has drawn blood in a successful counterattack. Hisoka once again starts fending off the puppets while Chrollo is seen hunching over a body, and this is where he puts into effect the bomb plan. Hisoka doesn't really know what Chrollo's up to, he just thinks he's hurting from injury, so he tries to land an attack on Chrollo with the bowling ball, but Chrollo dips and runs into the crowd. What Chrollo was actually doing was placing a max power sun seal on the corpse, which is revealed to us later, but we know for sure that it's a sun seal because the panel we see of him doing it later reveals he is still holding the book with his right hand, and the sun seal is on his left hand. Chrollo then waits in the crowd while Hisoka finishes off the puppets, but he's actually doing something with the puppets while he's waiting on Hisoka here. Hisoka finally whittles down the initial barrage of 30 puppets that Chrollo sent to him, and he takes the last one hostage because he thinks Chrollo has to have his book on Gallery Fake and Order Stamp at the same time. Gallery Fake needs to remain active for the extra puppets, and Order Stamp is the actual orders that the puppets need to move and act. So from Hisoka's perspective, this makes complete sense. However, we know the only ability Chrollo is required to have open right now is Order Stamp. He does not need Gallery Fake anymore because these puppets are all sun sealed. According to Hisoka, with his limited knowledge at this point, holding a hostage forces Chrollo to either keep the stamp activated and give new orders to the remaining puppets, or immediately deactivate the stamp and start making more Gallery Fake copies. Chrollo deactivates Order Stamp, and Hisoka thinks to himself that Chrollo is probably going to be near his old puppets to make more or give them commands, so he looks at that part in the crowd and finds a Chrollo LARPer, which Chrollo used convert hands on to make look like himself, and used a black voice needle in his head to control him. Hisoka runs down and kills this imposter, but something neat about this scene is in the crowd when Hisoka initially spots Chrollo, we see the real Chrollo actually in the crowd right next to him with his appearance altered by transfer student. There's this chubby dude with glasses, bushy hair, and a coat over his shirt, and this is the man that is revealed to be the fake Chrollo after Hisoka kills him. You can even see the broken glasses on the floor as well. This is not really important at all. I just kind of thought it was a cool Easter egg that Togashi put in here, but it's not really relevant to the fight as a whole. Anyways, Hisoka realizes something doesn't add up. Chrollo has to have Gallery Fake activated according to Hisoka because his bungee gum is connected to one of the Gallery Fake heads. Convert Hands was also active because obviously this was a fake Chrollo. And finally, a third ability, Black Voice Mobile Fate Director, was used, which doesn't make sense to Hisoka. That's 3 abilities, which is more than 2. Something is up. Hisoka then puts the pieces together that bungee gum is indeed just rubber and gum, and that Chrollo's Gallery Faked puppets will never vanish if a sun or moon seal is placed on them. Which, like I said, this frees up Chrollo of 2 whole ability slots after a Gallery Faked puppet is affixed with a sun or moon seal. This is confirmed not only because of the head remaining for Hisoka that he looks at after killing the fake Chrollo, but at the start of the next chapter, Hisoka jumps back into the arena and all the Gallery Faked bodies are still there, just beheaded, meaning Chrollo did in fact employ this strategy on the initial wave of puppets, putting a sun seal on all of them. And we know Chrollo switched to Black Voice and Convert Hands for the diversion, confirming Chrollo after the creation of the Sun and Moon Gallery Fake can just move on to 2 other Hatsu. We're now getting pretty deep into the fight at the start of chapter 355, and this is where a lot of confusion about this fight comes up. Hisoka is kind of just walking around trying to reason everything and what Chrollo actually did with his abilities throughout the fight, and he has this very important quote about the initial wave of puppets. By that, I mean the first puppets Chrollo made in the entire fight. With the sun and moon as an additional step, the number of puppets should be fewer than my initial calculations. maybe 20 to 30 more. If I take too long to find them, he'll keep making puppets at a pace of one every couple seconds. The first thing I want to clear up about these set of statements is when Hisoka says Chrollo is using the quote sun and moon, he's naming the Hatsu. He's not saying every puppet has to have both the sun and moon, nor does he think every puppet has both seal. As we see literally on the same page, his explanation says he thinks the puppets only have the sun seal on them. So from Hisoka's perspective, Chrollo, after he changed his outfit, gallery faked, then had to do the sun seal as an extra step, then did order stamp, so reasonably, instead of there being 80 total puppets, there might be 50 to 60. There's extra steps based on Hisoka's analysis of Chrollo's speed, and I think there's around 30 more puppets that Chrollo made in that initial wave. There's also a mistranslation here that's sort of crucial. Hisoka doesn't actually say Chrollo can make a puppet every couple of seconds, which is 2 seconds. He actually says between 1 to 2 seconds, which is an estimate, and drastically changes the English reader's interpretation of the time frames here, but Chrollo can make these puppets even faster than 1 second, which I will explain here shortly. Hisoka is then distracted by some puppets rampaging in the crowd, and next thing you know, he's being attacked by an army of puppets that is estimated to be around 200 puppets. Now, before we get to the final stanza of the fight, it's time we explain how Chrollo made so many puppets, because many people, myself included, thought that this was either a plot hole, Togashi messed up, Chrollo cheated, or something was just fishy, because none of this made sense. However, I rationalized an explanation that patches up every hole in the puppets number debacle, and I'm not saying this is 100% canon and is what happened, but if you're looking for an explanation that's consistent with everything we see, I am offering one up that you can make your own judgments on. First, let's talk about what the common interpretation of the puppet strategy was and why it kinda doesn't make sense. Let's rewind to the initial wave of puppets Chrollo created. Chrollo is estimated by Hisoka, based on his speed, to have made 80 puppets in this scene, 30 by gallery fake and up to 50 in reserve. However, Hisoka later finds out these puppets had to have the sun seal placed on them as well, and this is confirmed because when Hisoka returns to the arena, all the puppet bodies are still just there. So there can't be 80 puppets logically based on Chrollo's speed. There's likely between 50 and 60, maybe even a little bit more than 60 because Hisoka did just estimate, but I personally think 30 more is consistent, so 60 total. So we know Chrollo has around 30 extra puppets. And if we fast forward to when Hisoka's chasing around the Chrollo fake, we know Chrollo can't be using any ability besides Transfer Student and Black Voice here. He can't make extra puppets during this time. He has both his bookmark and book being occupied. So Chrollo can't actively make any puppets until Hisoka kills this fake and he deactivates Convert Hands. And in this time after Hisoka kills the fake and starts thinking about Chrollo's strategy to the time that the puppets start rushing him, Chrollo all of a sudden has 200 puppets and a bunch of bomb puppets that are max power, which take at least 3 seconds to make. Even though we don't know how much time it takes between panels, if you've just read this fight, this seems like a massive stretch for Chrollo to pull this off, even if you highball the time to be extremely long and include the 30-ish extra puppets. It just doesn't make sense or seem consistent with our estimations and how fast Chrollo could effectively make these puppets. People especially couldn't believe this because they thought Chrollo was making puppets at around 1 every 2 seconds. Like I said, this was a mistranslation, but even if you half the time and Chrollo can make a puppet in 1 second, this still seems absurd. So what did Chrollo actually do? What I think is the most rational explanation is the first set of puppets Chrollo made, where he gallery faked around 60 puppets and sent 30 at Hisoka, leaving 30 extra. He not only placed a sun seal on them, he also placed a moon seal. So to go over what Chrollo did, he changed his outfit, he activated gallery fake, which means he bookmarked it, and then used both his hands to copy 60 people, opened up to the sun seal, placed a sun seal on all 60 of these puppets. After this, he moves the bookmark over to the sun and moon, as he no longer needs gallery fake and the puppets are permanent from the sun seals. He then places a moon seal on the 30 extra puppets that Chrollo did not send at Hisoka, then opens to order stamp and orders the 30 that don't have the sun and moon on them to go attack Hisoka. Chrollo doing this additional step, also placing the moon seals on the extra puppets in this initial encounter, explains a lot of inconsistencies later on, which we're going to get to. Chrollo then bookmarked order stamp and opened his book up to the sun and moon, and waited for Hisoka to use his bungee gum on a puppet head. Once he identified what body Hisoka decapitated, Chrollo goes over and places a sun seal specifically on that puppet, which we know because we see his book in his right hand, like I mentioned earlier. And I also want to say Chrollo specifically says for the explosions to be at maximum effect, he only needs to touch the target for 3 to 5 seconds. So only one hand is needed, and it only needs to make contact for 3 to 5 seconds. Thus, this body was now a max power bomb. Chrollo then dips into the crowd and waits for Hisoka to finish off about 15 puppets remaining, and then takes one hostage, waiting on Chrollo's actions. Chrollo, as soon as he gets into the crowd here, immediately goes over to his previous gallery faked puppets and starts placing max power sun seals on them to turn them into max power bombs. Now, we have no idea how long it took Hisoka to take out these puppets and how long he sat there with the puppet hostage, but it seems like Hisoka did this pretty quickly. I think realistically, of the 30 puppets Chrollo has, he could have made around 8 to 10 max power bombs. This is between 24 and 30 seconds, which I think is pretty reasonable here. So of the 30 puppets Chrollo has in the crowd, now about 10 are max power bombs. At some point after Hisoka takes the hostage, Chrollo sees that he takes the bookmark off order stamp and puts it on convert hands. He then uses two-handed convert hands to swap appearances with that dude with the curly hair in the crowd, opens his book to black voice, and has the guy just walk around LARPing. Hisoka falls for the fake Chrollo and goes to kill him, and Chrollo immediately stops using both abilities and bookmarks the sun and moon to power up the remaining 20 sun and moon puppets. Keep in mind, he's chilling right next to his bomb puppets because that's where Hisoka found him. Hisoka specifically says he's going to be near where the original puppets were, and we know Chrollo was in the crowd right next to his copy. So Chrollo likely just walked over and just chilled waiting by the extra 30 puppets to start creating max power bombs as soon as he deactivated both black voice and convert hands. Now this is the most important part. Chrollo can create these max power puppets at double speed. He simply needs to stand between each set of puppets, hold his left hand on a puppet, and hold his right hand on a puppet's hand, and power up the seals. I could show you a quick picture on what I think he did. He could stand in between them, holding their hands like this, which I think also makes sense on why the bomb puppets have seals on their hands the way they do. Togashi very explicitly has the puppets have the moon sign on their left hand and the sun sign on their right hand, which completely lines up with this theory. If Chrollo did this for, let's say, the 20 remaining bomb puppets, this would only take him 30 seconds. He only needs to hold his hand on a puppet for 3 seconds. If he was able to make 10 max power bomb puppets when he snuck in the crowd earlier, he would already be done with all the bomb puppets in just 30 seconds after Hisoka kills the Chrollo imposter. As soon as Chrollo was done making these bomb puppets and then placing a moon seal on a random audience member, he can immediately start spamming gallery fake, bookmarking it, then placing the sun seal while Hisoka is thinking on Chrollo's strategies. It seems like a pretty substantial amount of time passes while Hisoka is thinking over all these strategies, and keep in mind Hisoka's highball estimates that Chrollo can make 1 per second. However, Hisoka thinks that Chrollo gallery faking, sun sealing, and order stamping takes 1 second. Realistically, Chrollo had the additional step of also moon stamping around 30 puppets after he placed the sun seals. So Chrollo, based on this interpretation, is making new puppets in under 1 second bare minimum. How fast exactly, we don't know, but this explains why there is just so damn many by the time Hisoka is done thinking about it. But this makes way more sense with everything we're told in this fight. All the time frames make way more sense. It explains why Hisoka's estimates on the puppets per second were so wrong. The extra puppets from the beginning were the bomb puppets all along, and Chrollo powering up these bomb puppets at the end lines up with how Togashi drew them on the puppets' hands. This is my current theory on what Chrollo did to win this fight and how I think he accomplished everything he did so quickly. Moving on from the puppet theories, we see Hisoka getting rushed down by hordes of puppets. Again, sorry for saying puppets so much, that Chrollo made after he announced over the intercom that the puppets are going to break Hisoka. Hisoka is then preoccupied by this army, allowing Chrollo to start his next plan to destroy Hisoka's bungee gum escape routes. He bookmarks Order Stamp and activates Black Voice, controlling a random civilian that he placed the Moon Seal on to go find the body that had the Max Power Sun Seal on it from earlier. Remember, this is the body that Hisoka decapitated and is actively using the head of. When Hisoka pulls his bowling ball weapon into his hands, Chrollo then tells the manipulated person to touch the body so it explodes. It doesn't matter if the entire body is connected, everything still explodes. This includes the disconnected head that Hisoka was holding, causing him to lose all of his fingers. Hisoka, now running out of options and having a lost hand, is starting to really feel the heat. Chrollo finally goes on to his bomb puppets from the start of the fight, order stamps them, and commands them to blow Hisoka to bits. And I think we all know how the rest went down from here. The bomb puppets ran down Hisoka. They were able to blow off Hisoka's leg. Hisoka gets completely overwhelmed by the puppet armies, falls to his death, and is engulfed in an explosion that causes him to suffocate. He commands his bungee gum to reinvigorate him after he is stitched up, and he revives with post-mortem nin.